it to. Go on. Let me see. Oh, good. We're live. Okay, good. Hell yeah, we did it. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yay. It worked. It worked. Let's see. Okay, now I get to pull up the Hi, Goddess. Hello. Hi. How's it going? Happy Halloween. Happy All Hallows Eve. It's only the greatest time of year. Ooh. Yeah. What is the name of the, I think it's Texarkana. That one was scary. Yeah. Ooh. Damn. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to wait a little bit until some more people come in, and then we'll get started. I was going to go over some of the spookiest stories, in my opinion, that haven't been solved. Yeah, I was thinking of, here, let me ask. What? Yay. Unsolved crimes. Did you get a lot of trick-or-treaters? Oh yeah, that's terrifying too, dude. Oh man. Jesus. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had a pretty busy day today. And usually I make a big deal out of Halloween, so I do like I make a bunch of like trick-or-treating like baggies and stuff, but I was so busy this year that I was like, I'm not even gonna bother. So okay. Oh my god. Yeah, like otherwise I can still pull up Alex's archives. and just have that ready to go. Yeah, because that shit's pretty scary too. Any paranormal experiences you want to share? I have a few, but they're not good. They're not like exciting or interesting. They're just kind of like, huh, okay, that's weird. Ooh, I hate that. Okay. Well, we've got some stuff to do, so whew, guess we could get into it. And of course, I brought my Halloween costume. Of course, you kind of can't see it, but it's a witch's hat, so it's kind of hard to see. But hello. So yeah. Okay. Well, tonight I think what I'll do is go over some of the most common I love it too. Thank you. Gotta keep it easy though. Okay. So yeah, this was stuff that I was looking into before. It's just been a while since I've actually gone over it, but um like I've noticed that there are cold cases that tend to do better, and it has to do with like kind of these tropes or these like ideas that carry over from almost like mythology, it's the storytelling aspect of it. So there are cold cases that can tap into some of our deepest, most unnerving fears because they blur the line between mystery, tragedy, and the unknown. And some of the most common ones that tend to, I guess, do better, like in the zeitgeist or yeah, hi everyone else. It's just you and me, goddess. We're just gonna be talking. Um, but yeah, like the stuff that like exists long after in kind of like the public memory that makes them so haunting. Hi, I'm Cal. Hi. How are you? Yeah, we're going over some spooky stuff. So the thing that the trope that really used to get me was the vanishing without a trace. I hate that idea. And it like I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the missing 411 of like people that go into national parks and never come out, and like maybe they find like a random piece of clothing like years later. You're stoned out of your I love you, Cal. You're about to be Cal too? Okay. Well, these might be scarier then if you get stoned out of your mind. But Yeah, so like you know how so in Missing 411, the stories are like these people seemingly disappear within a short amount of time. Um, and they are never seen again, or some trace of them shows up again, but like miles and miles away, or like where people had gone and searched before. Um, the missing enigma, like 411, without jumping the shark. Okay, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I like Laura Lodge too. They do some really good stuff. But yeah, cheers with the yeah with the doobies. So or like that kids when kids disappear and they go miles and miles missing. Um, so the vanishing without a trace, a person disappears during an ordinary moment, like walking home or driving a familiar route or stepping outside just for a minute. No witnesses, no evidence, just gone. Um, and there was one of a kid, I can't remember if it was like in Minnesota or Michigan or Wisconsin, somewhere, I want to say like in the Midwest. And he was a college kid and he had just gotten done. I think he left a party. I think he left a party where they had been drinking. And then, like he gets in a small fender bender. I think he drives into a ditch. And this is in like a rural part of the country, countryside. Oh, and that dude that just showed up. Yeah. And he was like walking on his cell phone. Like he called his dad. He was on his cell phone and he was like, he thought he was walking in the correct direction to town. And he called his dad and was like, Dad, I got in an accident. My car went into the ditch. I'm going to start walking towards the nearest town. And his dad, it's like the middle of the night. So his dad's like, oh, okay. Well, give me your rough coordinates. And he can't really find him or anything. And what happens is that I know his poor dad, dude, like his dad eventually finds the vehicle. Um but he can't locate his son cuz like the son is seemingly walking towards a civilization of sorts. Like there are some sort of like indication that there is human civilization in the direction that he's walking, and they find nothing. They do like like multiple mile radius search um, of all directions that he could have been walking, and they find nothing, not even like his phone or anything. And I guess there was like this stream that kind of went by, but it wasn't like even Deer Creek. It was like kind of a stream. And like the theory was that he fell in and drowned, but it wasn't a fast moving current. It really wasn't a big enough stream to do anything. Yeah, it was crazy. And like that kind of stuff haunts me because you'd think, and this was like recently, this was like 2008 or something, you know? Um, but you think like downstream, if that was the case, then you would find something of him later on, right? Um, oh gosh, yeah. So that got dark. But like the reason that the vanishing without a trace is scary because it's like it does kind of prey on the fear of randomness. Like, that's why I won't go to public parks. Like, I won't go to national parks or anything like that. Like, especially not to stay the night. And like, you know, even here in Arizona, like I'm sure you know, like all the people that decide to still go climbing up on the mountains in the middle of the summer. I don't care how early you get up, like as long as it's 90 degrees out, it's not smart. Yeah, and don't ever go alone. So true. Um, but like, the people that like there was a man that just I don't know how recent this was, but I think he had died and they had a hard time getting him off the side of the mountain. You were always alone? Yeah, I won't go alone. Um, especially not after that young woman was just out. Like, she lived in a neighborhood, like in the Scottsdale area, where there was like um, kind of like this mountainous trail, but it was like in their subdivision or something. And she was just going on like her normal Saturday morning hike, and somebody came up and just like killed her. I think they tried to sexually assault her too, but I've seen some weird shit in the woods. I will tell you that. And like my dad's mom, and I grew up in central Illinois. So not Chicago, central Illinois. So there were plenty of woods and whatnot, but my dad's mom, she grew up in Romania, like in the Transylvanian mountains. And like she was born in 1910. So like one of the I think this is what she told my aunt, because it was secondhand. My aunt telling me what she had recalled my grandma telling her, but yeah, that last hiker lady that was killed, yeah. Yep. And it was some guy that had like a mental illness. It was just crazy. But anyway, yeah, my grandma on my dad's side, she was born in 1910. And like one of her last memories of her mom, because she was like the youngest of like, I think 8 or 9 kids, or second to youngest. Yeah, don't go without a pew pew. That's right. Um, but like one of her last or clearest memories of her mother was like her mother telling one of her older sisters to take her and all the other kids into the mountains and to go play and not come out until I forget like the details of it. I'll have to go and ask again, but um basically, yeah, like so they just lived up in the woods for like months on end, trying to stay out of the way, because at the time, that was World War I, roughly around that time period. So like um well, anyway, so I think it was the Hungarian army that was going through, the Austro-Hungarian army, but I don't know my World War I history, unfortunately. And then she never saw her mom again. I mean, she still had, her sisters and stuff, but like for whatever reason, like her dad survived, but like she never saw her mom again. And then like the family kind of got split up and stuff, and eventually when she was 20, she made her way to Canada, because like the United States was not allowing in Eastern Europeans. Um, but eventually she did get to Canada. But point is, she was like, we lived in the woods. in a subdivision, but like a lot of the houses were in the woods, and ours was like against the back of this ravine. Hi, see you one day. Hi, trick or treat, happy Halloween. Um, but yeah, we lit like literally there was like a ravine. If you were to go into the backyard, there was a ravine, and me and my brother would go out and play like constantly. He was way more of a daredevil than I was. Like he would cross the big ass trees that would fall down, like just do 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 over them, like it was nothing. And I'd be like, oh shit, mom's gonna fucking kill me. Um, but my grandma would always get so mad at my mom, and like she and my mom didn't really like each other anyway. You know, my mom didn't help the situation, and my grandma wasn't the nicest, so they didn't really like each other. But dude, like the way she would just say like, you don't go into the woods, you don't go into the woods, and it just scared the shit out of me. Because like it was fun to go down in the woods. And she was like, when you go out, you stay in the middle of the road. And it's like, of course you can't do that. Like, what do you I mean, it wasn't a busy subdivision, but it was like, you can't just walk in the middle of the road, grandma. um but you stay where people can see you, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, she wanted us to stay out of the fucking woods. And of course, like we would never go into the woods after dark because like it is treacherous. Like I understand the whole like like trying to get to Ron Logan's area through there and people being like, how could he do it? Well, he knew the land really well, but also I'm sure it was still treacherous every time. So um and like some of the ravines are like literally like, I don't even know how you they're like probably like that, so that you're like basically holding on to trees as you're going down the ravine, just so it like stops your forward fall. Just grab onto a tree, catch yourself in the fall, grabbing onto a tree, catch yourself in another fall, grabbing onto a tree, all of that kind of stuff, all the way down, and then climbing up, it was like, basically pulling yourself back up one tree at a time. So the bums live down there and will hurt you. Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, we were far enough out of town that that wasn't the situation. But um, one of the scariest encounters I ever had was um, we had a dog, the family dog. Her name was Roxy, and she was a black lab chow mix. She was a pretty big dog. She was a sweet dog, but I forget. I think I was like home from school one weekend in November, my freshman year, and I was out walking Roxy in the woods, and the Boy Scouts had come in and like re-leveled all the areas so you could go and walk through there, and they like put in stairs and some nice trailheads and stuff. I mean, it's still really nice, so I think that's really cool. But we were going down, and um there was kind of like this plateau. All the leaves were off the trees by that point, so you could really see pretty far across the area. There was quite a bit of leaf fall on the ground, but it was blue skies, the sun was out. um and I remember I always had my earphones in, and I was always just kind of like, you're a kid, you don't pay attention to things. And all of a sudden, we're walking, I'm not paying attention, and Roxy, she's in front of me, but she comes to a dead halt, like dead halt. And so I kind of like run into her and I'm like, oh, come on, Roxy, let's go, let's keep going. It's the middle of the day, it's beautiful out, like let's go. I mean, it's cold, but it's beautiful out. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with like chow mixes. in particular like chow lab mixes, but she would get this like mohawk down her back whenever she was freaked out by something. She would get like this is like a razor back. I don't really know how to explain it other than like it looked like a mohawk. She would get this mohawk all down her back, and she was a pretty calm dog. Like she didn't really growl or anything, but she was growling then. And that spooked the shit out of me, so that when I went to take out my earbuds, like there was this screaming noise. It was an animal, but it was like screaming. And it sounded like, later on when I've seen like horror movies or something, sometimes they like have what screaming pigs sound like, and it sounded like screaming pigs in the middle of the woods. And I'll never forget that. That was very, very spooky. Um, canceling on. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't have my full hearing. Um, when I was a kid, I had a lot of ear tube operations, and you know, I still don't have like full range hearing. That's why I can't sing. That's my excuse, actually. Some animals sound like babies crying. Yeah, it was weird, dude. It was really weird. And to just like to have the rest of the atmosphere, like once they got the earbuds out, saw that she was growling, calmed her, and then just stood in the silence. That silence was like every animal had shut up to hear and wait and see what the thing was. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody was unnerved. It was like the whole ecosystem was just like waiting. Yeah, it was really scary. It was really scary. And then um now this was like a couple years after we got Roxy. I think we got Roxy when I was in my senior year of high school. So like okay, so maybe this was like like a year later. Yeah, you were being watched, something out there. Yep, that's exactly what it was. It was just and that's why Watcher in the Woods is the scariest Disney film you'll ever see if you watch it. Like, there's just something about the woods, right? We should ask ChatGPT what it is, but I think what it would say is that it's very much like you are being observed, you're on, you know, you're basically in enemy territory. Like, you don't know the woods as well as whatever is that's lurking out there. And it's treacherous, there's a bunch of hidden things that you can't see, you don't know, and it's just not a natural human habitat. Um, Hence where you get like all the myths of the green man and the wild man and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, when we first got Roxy, and maybe she was just a really easily spooked dog, but like that sound that we heard in the woods that day was like, yeah, that's pretty terrifying. But this the day that we got Roxy, or like I think the first week that we had her, I was home alone. Um, and I forget where everybody else was, but for whatever reason, I was home alone. And we had these steps that went down into the basement, and Roxy just stood at the top of the steps and growled, you know. And it was just really scary because it was like, I don't know you, but I trust animals, you know? Um, they have so much better hearing. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep. So predators know you are in their territory, but you won't see them. Yeah. Yeah, it was like everybody was holding their breath. And then oh, it's just spooky, you know. It's unnatural, for people, but so um okay. Yeah, it preys on the fear of randomness that anyone could vanish without explanation or justice, and then not knowing, no closure. That's pretty scary in my opinion. So also, um, like for example, the reason that Delphi is, there's a lot of reasons for Delphi being what it is, right? Um, but it's that final photograph or final recording or the idea of it. So, like a chilling image, voicemail, or video clip, it becomes the last known trace of the victim. And sometimes it even captures like their abductor or hints at what's about to happen. So, and it's so scary because it's like the person is trapped in time and their last moment is frozen there for eternity. So, there's a lot of last Polaroid stories, or like the Alyssa Lamb elevator footage was very creepy in the Cecil Hotel. Um, all of that kind of stuff. So, um, and then the Quiet Town Secret is another trope, of course. So, a murder in a peaceful small town reveals that beneath the surface lies corruption, abuse, or an intergenerational cover up. That's weird. Huh. Something's acting up. Oof. Yeah, so a murder in a peaceful small town reveals that beneath the surface lies corruption, abuse, or an intergenerational cover up. It flips the comfort of community into a claustrophobic web of silence, where everyone knows something, but no one talks. So, an example would be like the Texarkana Moonlight murders, the Villisca Axe murders, or the Delphi case. Um, the ritual or pattern killer, a string of crimes across years or states tied together by eerie details, dates, symbols, or methods. The idea of a killer who's still out there, repeating the pattern, amplifies dread. Why it's scary. It taps into the fear of intelligence behind evil, a calculating, almost supernatural persistence. The Zodiac Killer, Bible John, I don't know that one, and the Long Island Serial Killer before the identification, and the I-70 Killer. Also, the false confession or the wrong man. Someone is accused, even convicted, but the evidence doesn't quite fit, and the real killer may still be free. Why it's scary. It creates moral horror. Justice itself becomes corrupted, leaving no closure. West Memphis 3, and Stephen Avery as portrayed in Making a Murderer. The House That Holds the Key, a crime scene or abandoned home where the energy never feels right. Neighbors hear noises, objects move, or visitors feel sick. Later, a secret basement or forgotten item reveals something horrifying. Why it's scary. It mixes the tangible with the supernatural. A crime so brutal it stains the environment. Examples would be the Hinterkaifeck murders, the Villisca Axe House, or the Keddy Cabin case. Oof. So I guess there was this Dear David haunting, this Grim Sleeper MySpace traces, and modern cyber sleuth cases. Oh no, I moved that. Sorry, that's wrong. I'm spooking myself so much I'm not paying attention. Digital haunting. Modern cold cases often involve social media clues, catfishing, or strange online behavior that continues after the victim's death. Sometimes their accounts reactivate. It merges the technical with the spiritual, the sense that the victim's digital shadow still lives. The Dear David haunting. I don't know what that is. Grim Sleeper MySpace traces and modern cyber sleuth cases. The DNA ghost. New technology uncovers shocking family secrets, sometimes implicating beloved relatives or exposing generations of hidden violence. Why it's scary. It's intimate horror. The monster is family. The Golden State Killer, the Bear Brook case. The Golden State Killer was scary because of like how many cases it strung together, and how like pathological he was. Hmm. I wonder if the internet's acting up. That's weird. Whew. Okay, let's keep going. The case that repeats. A murder or disappearance happens again years later. Same location, same date, same MO, suggesting a copycat or worse, or survivor turned killer. Why it's scary. It feels fated, as if the place itself demands sacrifice. The Phantom Killer parallels or missing person clusters like those studied by David Paulides. Missing 411, right? That's terrifying. The found object. A single object, a locket, toy, or coded note, surfaces decades later, reigniting the investigation. Sometimes it's found in a thrift store or in a demolition site. Why it's scary. The past literally resurfaces as if demanding remembrance. Example, the Somerton Man's hidden scrap of poetry. I think that happened in Australia. JonBenet Ramsey's ransom note analysis, and the Isdale woman's suitcase. That also reminds me of the Stevenson case, like I think part of the big reason that people were so interested in it was because they believed there was an item connected to the case. And it was like really important for a lot of these people to find out what that item was. And, you know, it is scary because it's like, how would you know there was an item? I guess like Coy Cox hinted at a lot of things, but when he was like, "Oh, we looked at Delphi because of the nature of the Stevenson case, and then we didn't find anything." It's interesting. If we make the assumption that he potentially was compromised, why would he go and put it on Delphi? Why would he go and try to connect Stevenson's to Delphi? Especially when there's a 6-year gap. So what was the point, you know? But there were so many people that came out of the woodwork for Alex wanting to know what the item was in the Stevenson's case. How would you know how would you know there was an item to ask about? And a lot of them were probing Alex even before that for, the dark webs, not dark web, but like, what would you call it? Like Chomoverse Underground? What, like, what would you call that whole thing? It was like, Chomoverse Underground, and I think they wanted to try to preemptively prepare for what would be found. If things could be found from the like Anthony Schott's account, I think they wanted to preemptively prepare to see what would be found. But I will say that authorities still managed to keep it under wraps pretty well because nothing really comes out about the Stevensons or about the Anthony Schott's account still to this day. And there was more than one name connected to it. It was more than Keegan Klein. And yeah, like I remember, and there's no like official news article because like I've had to really dig and then of course ask ChatGPT and then dig some more, but like there's no news article that's like after Anthony Schatz is discovered. Yes, they found like some of the, I know they said they found like some of the most extensive CSAM in like Indiana history or something like that, but it wasn't like, that it took down a bunch of people, but like for some reason, I think this was like on Criminalities Live, like probably in late 2023 or early 2024. She had like an open panel and I got to go on, and Gray Hughes got up and immediately started calling me stupid and stuff because I believed in the big name secrets because it takes longer to make a case against them. Probably cult. Probably. Especially like sometimes it can take RICO's 10 years. And we're only in year 8. Assuming it began in 2017, right? So what's interesting about that is that Gray Hughes said, and I'm going to misquote him, but he also believed that there was, an extensive bunch of pedos caught because of it, which I was under that impression too. And then that information just disappeared. I could never find that again. And I was like, why wouldn't you be congratulating yourself on that? Like as Indiana State Police, But maybe they just had so many instances of like shit investigation for crimes against kids. Because you have Nasser, and before Nasser, you have Fogel. And yeah, Nasser was, he was initially based out of Michigan State University, but I believe the gymnastics headquarters were down in Indianapolis. So, and then you had Buster Hernandez, and he doesn't get arrested until what? I think it's like August of 2017. So, yeah. It's spooky shit, guys. I really don't want to believe that, like, there are these patterns or this deep-rooted history of child exploitation and abuse as, like, some form of debauchery. But I think it's existed always. And that's very upsetting. Kids aren't safe anymore. I mean, they never were. But see, back in the day, you had more people acquainted with each other, up in everybody's business. And so like, I knew my neighbors across the street, for example. If I saw their kids out playing, and like maybe my kids want to go over and play with them, or my kids are over like playing in my yard or something, I'm still going to kind of keep an eye out for those other kids too, right? Because I know the people across the street, and I know what they get up to. I know them on a first name basis, and therefore also like things that are abnormal are going to be abnormal, right? But like now, it would be creepy. I mean, I don't have kids, but let's say I did. It would still be kind of creepy if I didn't really know my neighbors and I just kind of kept an eye on their kids too. like maybe those neighbors would be like, why are you watching my kids? You know? I don't know. I think we've all just become a lot more fearful of each other. And with good reason. I mean, I think that online has really made people nasty and cruel. Yeah, I agree with you, Cal. I agree. So, and like, look at how easily people go to lie. Like, if you think about it, and I know not everybody's a fan of Prof, but it's defamation to call him a pedophile when he hasn't even been accused or charged with anything like that. If he had money, and it takes money and time, believe me, he could sue all of those people. Like, all of those people would have court fees and would have real issues, and it would be a real pain in the ass. But the internet makes it so that it is tricky to do that. And it's, it's cost prohibitive. It's not something anyone can do. So they know they can get away with it, but technically, you know, that is something that could be taken to civil court. And it's interesting to see the skeletons in other people's closets. Because the people that throw around chomo and pedophile and some of the worst names that you can call someone are, in my opinion, more questionably those names than, I mean, there's more reason to wonder if those names don't really apply to them, the people doing the accusations. And it is a felony to falsely tip in someone to ICAC or to the National Centers for Exploited and Missing Children. That is a felony. But the internet makes it seem like it's not anything. It is also a federal crime to death threaten someone. Maybe you can make the case that the shooting Prof and Adrian isn't a death threat, but you could certainly make a case for the guy posing over the grave as being a death threat, in triumph kind of thing. That is a crime. Doxing people is a crime. Cyber stalking, it's a federal crime. And I don't know how I feel about digital ID, because I think it's on its way. I really do. I don't necessarily see a way around it, but yeah, I think it's on its way, man. And that's scary. That's scary because where do you draw the line? Of course. And once you begin to draw a line, it can easily become a slippery slope, right? So, but terms of service too, I think are a huge factor in a lot of these platforms. They need to be enforcing their terms of service. There's absolutely no reason why information that is doxing someone should stay up on something like X, or there's absolutely no reason why that person shouldn't be deplatformed, or the person calling somebody like prof a pedophile shouldn't be deplatformed, like have their platform gone, you know? But like I was saying to Granny D in one of the comments, like, and I mean, she's very perceptive. She was pointing this out too, that like there's so much you can't trust anymore. You can't trust government. You can't trust, I mean, you can't go in with blind trust anymore, basically, right? And one of the roughest times I've had on this case, besides like all the harassment and whatnot, was like Alex came to visit me. I think it was like early or mid-January. I don't know if we were working on his archive by then, but he like, Alex very much like Whirlwind came in and was like, oh, I had this encounter with Delphi PD and this is and this and this and this. And then I was like, okay. And I didn't fully understand. I had to keep asking him questions. It like took he's probably, it took like the better part of a day for him to like actually, oh, for it to sink in. And basically what had happened was that he had commandeered a deceased individual's Facebook, or I think it was Facebook or Instagram, but it was a social media platform. But he had their information and he was using this deceased individual's information to monitor the whereabouts of a person who lied about knowing or saying that Richard Allen was the person of interest 2 years before he's arrested. At least his initials, right? But she later goes and says, oh no, I was talking about Richard Allen specifically. Anyway, this is, early this year. Let's just say January 2025. And Alex is saying, well, I was using this deceased individual's social media account and I was trying to monitor this person, this woman, trying to monitor her accounts and see what she was up to. And for whatever reason, that woman, who happened to live in Michigan at the time, reached out to Delphi PD saying, hey, there's this suspicious account that's been monitoring me on Facebook. Can you look into them? This woman from Michigan is asking a very rural, small police department to look into a person that's monitoring their Facebook account. Why don't you go to your own police to ask that? Why are you going to Delphi PD? So Delphi PD reaches out. This is Christmas or Christmas Day, I think. And they reach out to Alex, but Alex as this person, this alias that had been monitoring the woman from Michigan. They reach out and they say, "Oh, hi, so and so," because it's not, it's this person's account, and we'll just call them we'll say Billy, like, "Oh, hi, Billy, like, how can we help you? Can we help you with anything? Do you have any questions for us or something?" And Alex as Billy is immediately like, "Okay, I've been found out." And then he goes kind of on a rampage of "You guys know exactly what's up. What are you doing? Why are you reaching out on behalf of this woman?" We'll call her D. D from Michigan. "Why are you reaching out for her?" And they're like, "Who's D? We've never heard of D. Who's D? What are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Yeah, you do. Know exactly who I'm talking about." And so then Alex as Billy proceeds to show a ton of screenshots of that he's gotten from D over the years of D basically own goaling herself. Hi, Moonbeam. Okay, cool. Yeah. We were just going over more spooky things, but um, for whatever reason, I'm talking about this now. I don't know why, but he's having this conversation on Christmas Day with Delphi PD, and he's like, "Hey, you realize that this person has been accused of being engaging in child predation, right?" And he sends them all of these screenshots and stuff, and then also you know perfectly well who D is, blah blah blah. And Delphi PD is just playing dumb, but they go quiet after he's just sends them a barrage of look at all these screenshots showing that this person is trying to exploit children. And they just go quiet and they stop talking to him. And when Alex finally explained that whole situation to me, and it finally sank in, it was the wind got knocked out of me. I couldn't take a full breath, because it was that realization that all the times that you went to the police to try to give them information that could aid their investigation, get a lot of tickets and charges and stuff, then nothing happens. Okay. But these people, they were working for the bad guys the entire time. They were doing the bidding of this woman who, hasn't been charged with anything, but who was getting called out by other users observing their patterns on Instagram. Dee was using her own daughter's Instagram account, and her daughter was underage at the time. And then, there were these other Instagram accounts that were "What are you doing?" Reaching out to her in DMs or whatever the private messaging is over there, of "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? You're a grown ass adult and you're trying to catfish these kids. What the fuck are you doing?" And not only was Delphi PD like reaching out on behalf of this woman using her underage daughter's account, but they were, they were lying. They were pretending like they didn't know that. So it was like double nefarious, it was just, and to know that the police are in on it and that it's rigged, it was just so defeating. It was so defeating. I've never felt so, like, even thinking about it now makes me emotional. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we here? Like, what's the point? It was pretty traumatizing. Yeah. But why was a woman in Michigan? Like, why? Why? And I was like, we can't trust anyone. There's no one we can trust. And then, about a month later, actually about 2 weeks after Alex released his archive, his crime archive for Delphi and Stevenson's, Captain Howdy, I think Doug Venable, killed, his significant other, shot her 6 times in the face, and then killed himself. Why? Why? Why wasn't there an investigation? And yeah, I know a lot of people tried to say, well, he was just a bad person all around. He was like a wife abuser and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, well, he'd been abusing his significant other for years. And yeah, he was getting a restraining order and there were a bunch of pressures. All of that could have contributed. But why then and there? Like his post too. Which ones? Love and Light. Captain Howdy's. But there was no investigation into that. Because it's like everything. Captain Howdy's videos, okay. It's like so much of this case, they can reduce it down to, it was just an example of domestic violence. It was just an example of like an unhinged person. Just like Richard Allen is an example of this like crazed maniac. Yeah, YouTube is weird. But it was so interesting because like All Eyes tried to accuse Alex of this. And she got like her dates wrong and stuff. And then that was one of the posts that she actually did dirty delete because she got so much stuff wrong. But there was some sort of correspondence between, I think, Fig and Alex. And this is when Alex was genuinely believing he was helping the prosecution to get the right people. But they were like, hey, can you hack into Richard Allen's medical records? Which, of course, would have been a felony. Or illegal, very illegal, And Alex was like, yeah, if you have this and you pay this amount for that, you could do that. and he didn't. And I don't know if he really would have, but All Eyes was trying to be like, see, they were trying to get access to his medical records and blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason why that was such a big deal to Alex was because there was this data lounge post, and I'll have to go through and try to find it if it's there. But there was this data lounge post that talked about a nurse. And we've all heard, yeah, yeah, well, everybody was into the non-seculars. Well, anyway, um, basically, like, there was this old post, I think before Alan's arrest, and probably sometime before his arrest, like a significant amount of time before his arrest, of somebody talking about a nurse. And I don't know what it was in regards to, but it was suspicious enough that Alex had flagged it, and it came back to this potential that this nurse identified Alan as being potentially a good patsy. Now, that's not a solid theory, that's speculation. And I don't even know if that was Alex's speculation at the time, but he was always really concerned with a nurse. And it was because, of course, he took it to the MK Ultra level, you know. Oh, I talked about non-secular stuff in my very first video that I did on the runes in February 2024. Hi, Shibby. Okay. And so basically, like, it's not even a theory because, like, I don't know where it goes from here. Oh, you came in October 2024? Okay. Okay. No worries. But yeah, that whole thing had been scrubbed, TJ. It was crazy. And then, like, everybody wanted to be like, no, you can't prove it. It's been scrubbed, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, we're not idiots, so. Shibby had to bail? Okay. I don't know if it's back now. TJ, but they're good at scrubbing things, that's for sure. So anyway, point is, there was this random forum somewhere called Data Lounge that had, like, a mention of a nurse. Alex was, like, trying to see if they had MK Ultra Richard Allen's mind. And, you know, anything is possible, but it could have been too that, you know how Amy G talks about how because of Rick Allen's attachment and his dependence on other people and his family, and, like, his insecurity and his self-esteem and all of these issues, that he would be a very good candidate for a false confession, right? So it's very likely then this could be what Alex was thinking, or along these lines, right? That when Rick had his mental breakdown and he was hospitalized, and I don't know what year that is, but of course I think it's before, you know, way before any of this stuff goes down, maybe even before Abby and Libby were killed, that there was a nurse that had flagged it in that hospital, that institution, that center, wherever it was that he was. Hi, how's it going? Happy Halloween, guys. That this nurse had flagged it and been like, this guy seems very susceptible to agreeing with things that didn't necessarily happen. He's very agreeable, or he's very impressionable. And maybe that was something that could help make a patsy, the making of a patsy. Now, there's a lot of things then that would go into it, because like if the footage, of course, is manipulated, any of the footage, of course, that is then what, premeditation or pre-planning of sorts. And then oh, thank you guys, welcome, happy Halloween. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. But yeah, for the new people coming in, I'll go over it again real quick. But like, I have this issue too. So like one time, like my brother, when we were all living back at the house with my family, like my mom and dad and my brother, he borrowed my car and was supposed to bring back a set of keys. Like, he ended up having 2 sets of keys to 2 different vehicles. And for whatever reason, he said he brought them back, but he accidentally took both of them. Hi, Dee Dee. Welcome. Hi. And like, I doubt myself so much that I thought, like, we could not find this extra set of keys, and somebody needed the car, the vehicle, and like, I doubted my perception of reality so much that like I ended up digging through garbage thinking I had thrown it away. I had accidentally thrown a set of keys away. That's how much, like, that's how easily impressionable I am. So like, I could understand if you're on heavy doses of hallucinogenic drugs, and they're not giving you the proper SSRIs or whatever it is. Can you go do that somewhere else, please? Lulu, go on. Go. Sorry. Had to wave my witch hat at her. Go on, little kitty, go on. So anyway, long story short, the data lounge thing. In here? Really? Really? Come on. I'm closing this. So, like, the data lounge thing. So I forget when this was. I think this was like April or May. Hope there's not another cat in here. Oh, Keith was there. What are you guys talking about? What? That's weird. Well, do you guys want to hear the story about Data Lounge? Oh, Keith stalks you? Well, that's fantastic. God damn. Send him my way. Send him my way. And post your stuff on X. Wow. You had to give him a shout out? Good for you. Good for you. Okay. So, you guys remember hearing about how Richard Allen was hospitalized, right? Yeah, kisses, Keith. Kisses to you. Ugh. You guys remember hearing about that, right? Like oh, hi, Lisa. Hello. Let me get my... I gotta get a non-creaky chair. But, hi, Mustang. So, anyway, we all basically remember hearing about how Richard Allen was hospitalized. Hi. For like probably, I think, suicidal ideation or wanting to, maybe attempting to take his own life. Now, of course, I don't think that's ever been verified, right? But there came a point when, like, and I have my own conspiracy theory on this too. Like, I think Alex and Meerkat were meant to be, if anything went wrong, on the like IT computer coding programming side, they needed some fall guys, and Alex and Meerkat were going to be their fall guys, basically, because they're good at that stuff. They're good at like the computer stuff. But that's a different story for another day. And that's speculation and a theory. So just for what it's worth. Oh, hi, Carol. Hi. Should be serum in the mail for you. I hope everybody's having a good Halloween. What were we talking about? We were talking about... Oh, yeah. Okay. So, back in the day then, whenever Rick had his breakdown, and then, of course, there was the story that was like, the magic bullet that was in the little keepsake box was the one that he kept because it was like, this is the bullet that I didn't put in my head, to end it all. And then that ended up being the bullet that was like, that helped match to the bullet that they found in the ground or whatever. I don't know. It's some stupid story like that. But, and I think this happened before Abby and Libby were murdered, when he was hospitalized, Richard Allen. Hi, Christina. Oh, I need to make you a mod. Let me see. Happy Halloween. Let me see. Yes, there we go. Okay, good. So, basically what had happened was, there was some post on some random forum, and the more that, I learn about the case, the more I learn there are these random forums like My Death Space and, probably this Data Lounge or whatever the hell it is. There's this forum called Data Lounge. And, hi, Heather. Hi. Hold on. Real quick. Weird. Some of my texts aren't going through. Anyway, there was this random post, and I guess it had gotten deleted, but Alex had like managed to capture the essence of it, and it had something to do with somebody talking about a nurse who knew Richard Allen. And this post was before Richard Allen was arrested. And I think like years before he was arrested, but don't quote me on that. Like, I need to see, this is what happens when you get ghosted and you can't ask, like, what were you talking about again? But anyway, this post talks about a nurse that was treating Rick Allen, or had like mentioned somebody that was like Rick Allen. And so Alex thought that was weird and wanted to get access to Rick Allen's medical records. But at the same time, he was being co-opted by Fig to basically get Richard Allen's medical records, not on the up and up, probably more than likely for McClelland, allegedly. I don't know what it is because I heard this through All Eyes. And All Eyes had made this post in, it was either April or May or June. I don't know. All of it flies together, dude. She made this post about how Alex was trying to get a hold of Rick Allen's medical records to hurt him because he was up to no good and all this stuff. And, that simply wasn't the case. So I had Alex reach out to her and I was like, tell her what it really is and stuff. And of course she didn't believe him. And then she's like, I'll have nothing to do with you, etc., etc. Just some really nasty shit, per usual. And of course, then she had to eat her own words and take down that post. And yeah, because not the timing was incorrect and everything. She had just rushed to make a hit piece, a smear piece on him. And so anyway, the real reason that Alex was interested in Richard Allen's medical records was because he wanted to know, in Alex fashion, if there had been an MK Ultra nurse. Or in his mind, maybe Alex really did think an MK Ultra nurse, but it could be too that there was a nurse that understood the dynamics of what Amy G talks about when they say that his personality makes him very receptive to false confession. Hi, fucking evil. It's a great name. Oh, okay. Cool. Hi guys, if I didn't see you. And welcome. 33, hell yeah. That's a Freemason number. Hell yeah. To all my brothers in Masonry. But so I kind of hope you guys are following that story because I'm not great at telling stories, right? But he thought there was an MK Ultra nurse that had identified that Richard Allen would be susceptible to false confessions. And of course, if you put somebody in solitary confinement for long enough and you give them, powerful meds and wrong meds and dosages and, don't give it to them properly, you can certainly coerce a false confession out of them. Hi, Mandy. Hello. So basically, that was the issue that he was looking into. But of course, it got spun into you were trying to access Richard Allen's medical records for nefarious reasons to see if you could get him. I don't know what it was exactly because she had to redact it because it wasn't even accurate. But regardless, oh, there's still trick-or-treaters out. That's weird. Okay. Hi, Ronnie Jules. Hello. Aldo is very high risk. Yeah. Yeah. Diabolical Witch. Yeah. So that was another thing too. Because Alex is a little bit like you, Rotting Jewels, where it was like, are there a network of evil nurses? And like when you put it the way that he thinks about it, yeah, it sounds funny. But it's like, well, people in the healthcare industry talk to each other all the time. And if you're somebody who specializes in something like, you know, extreme psychosis or hallucinations or whatever it is that you're treating people for, yeah, you probably talk. You probably have a community of people. So you don't employ any nurses. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was his theory because he was like they MK Ultra'd him, and it's like, well, or they recognized that he would have been a good patsy, and regardless of what happened and when it happened, because I don't think the crime occurred when it did, of course, but you certainly could make a pretty decent after the fact, right? It's still a lot of work. It's more work to cover it up and to continue to cover it up than it would be to just make somebody take the fall for it right then and there. But because they switched that whole timeline, they needed a guy to be in the area that had nothing to do with any of these criminal networks so that it wouldn't get linked back to them, right? Hi, Granny D. Hello. It's good to see you. Favorite dead author's brother had been targeted and specifically was almost killed by a medical team post-surgery. These things do exist. You won't work in a hospital ever again. Okay. Yeah. I think Alex was like, he was a bit more Hollywood cinematic about it. Like these guys are strapped down and like giving them some, hallucination medicine and stuff. It was like a American Horror Story, but Asylum. And it is diabolical. It is, yeah. Although once when he was young, he got into some trouble. He was only 13 and paralyzed half his face. He had to go to the hospital. Did it get unparalyzed? That's insane. But yeah, so that's another thing, like there should have been an investigation into the prison system, which I'm sure, like, at least if there is a civil suit brought against them, there will be. But then also it should the Walla and I think even her supervisors need to be looked into and investigated. I think an investigation needs to happen with them. Granny D, thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you guys all so much for everything you've done for me. I don't want to forget to say it, but it's been, I don't want to get verklempt either, so I'm going to try to keep my shit together, but it's been a particularly hard year. So I appreciate all of you guys. And yeah, thank you. But back to MK Ultra nurses. I think nurses do talk. I think especially if you're in a specialty, or if you specialize in like a certain method of treatment or whatever it is, you're going to have a smaller pool of people to talk to. So maybe it was known that, hey, this guy is more susceptible, or somebody went and looked up like his records and they were like, oh yeah, he's at the bridge. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, he was also hospitalized around this time for this reason, and he has that codependency. I don't think it's like a disorder, but what is it, like a behavioral pattern or whatever. So I love you guys. Thank you. You guys are good people. You've really helped me through some hard times. I'm not gonna get verklempt. I'm gonna keep my shit together. So I think that's perfectly plausible, but again, it's a theory. It's not, you can't prove anything. But there are several, nurses on the case. We see patterns. We see patterns, right? Or at least that are content creators or like content creator adjacent on the case, right? He did win 70,000. That's good. Am I in my karmic year? I have no idea, Christina. I'll check it out. I don't want to know what I'm in. My Saturn's return was like, what, 5 to 8 years ago? That was rough too. Damn Saturn coming around. But yeah, I hope that makes sense so that you guys can like at least understand when you hear like the data lounge reference that's why the reference. Wow, my computer just froze. Hold on. That's creepy. Rotting Jewels is right. Oh, are you Dana? Nice to meet you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walla should have lost her license. I agree with that. And again, like, that's up to the law, but I think there's some violations there for sure. Your exact time of birth? See, I don't know when my exact time of birth was. My mom said it was like sometime around noon. But policies, okay. Yeah. They knew better. They knew better. And they decided to still do it. What other tea was I gonna spill? I was gonna talk about all the freaky stuff. But I think that was the one that I've been like kind of thinking about recently. Accessing records and social media. Yeah, true. So, I mean, it is plausible that like there's just so many like I've never done calculus in my life, right? But what I imagine calculus to be is like a bunch of equations that all work together to like in order you have to do like so much computing, right? So the calculus of it is like, let's say this thing happened sometime, the murders happened sometime between Saturday and Sunday. And they don't have to necessarily happen at the same time. That gives you all of Monday to put together something. And if like Amy G's saying the data for the phone is like very accurate, of being recorded at that time period on the bridge. Well, then that means that you have stunt doubles. And that's crazy, right? So, like your mind goes into all of these things, but all I know is that we can't trust any of the narrative that was given to us by anyone. So it has to be wiped out, and then you have to go based on facts that are known. And right now, we only have facts that are known about that a lot of things look bad, right? We never see the girls' faces in the videos, that's correct, but I guess we kind of see Abby's, right? And yeah, I mean, they're like artist who, is with It's a New Day a lot. Artist was saying there was rudimentary technology in 2017 to do that kind of stuff, right? So that's interesting. But but yeah, it's calculus to me, right? So plus imagine how many IDOC employees witnessed RA being abused. Yep. Not one whistleblower. Yep. Maybe there were. Maybe they're NDAs. Maybe there are NDAs and you can't. Well, see, that's stupid. NDAs should be like if somebody's getting hurt, Abby wasn't scared of BG. She looked elated. Finished crossing the bridge. Yeah. Yeah. And see, like, again, we can't really factor in, like, whether or not we think that they're afraid or they're elated or whatever. We need digital evidence. And that means we need the family's phones. We need, like, all of those records. And if they were all destroyed, because, like, you can't truly trust witness testimony, but, like, say you got records for the phones of people that were around the bridge that day and completely discard videos. Yeah, Baston, yep. Lost their jobs, were retaliated against. There's a lot of retaliation too. And like, for somebody living out here in Arizona, it's like, it's kind of nuts that, like, that people living in Indiana are terrorized. They're just terrorized. There's no middle ground. It's like, you either feel like you're not safe, you and your family aren't safe, or you shut the fuck up, right? Yeah, families, exactly, should be. And yeah, you know what? You know what would make me a real coward real quick? Actually, I don't even want to say it. Yeah, but I just did. To be my family, yeah. You kick boots or suffer consequences, right? Yep. Lick boots, yeah. You either kick rocks or, right. So, it's nasty, guys. It's nasty out there. Yeah, never give somebody something to hold over your head. It's true. But you're naive coming into the case. It's not like you're like, oh yes, everyone here will be watching my every move to see what they can hold against me at some point. You're not thinking that, you know? And thank God I'm like a really fucking boring person. Because I don't have anything. I don't have anything. So, I mean, like, look at, well, don't come for my cats. My cats will fuck you up, by the way, if you come for my cats. Yeah. But, and it's just so icky because, like, the females on this case have been the ickiest. I mean, like, yeah, there's some pretty gross guys, but like I never expected females to be this. But like, when, and don't get me wrong, like I support women. I believe women. I think, you know, all of this stuff, but I believe in truth first and foremost. So when the Me Too movement went into he looked at me funny and now he should be fired, that's no longer truth. That's no longer how the law or reality operates, right? So like our minds got rewired, and I blame a lot of liberals. As a liberal myself, I blame a lot of liberals for not speaking up and saying, okay, but there's a difference here, you know? There's a difference. Instead, everybody just kind of went quiet and didn't say anything because the mob was nasty. And the funny thing about principles is that in order to have them, you have to be consistent. It can't just be some of the time, you know? So when we started not looking at things and in like a realistic way, it opened this place for people to come in and to warp reality. And I think that's what happened with Delphi. Like, and I'm not even trying to make this necessarily a feminist thing, but if a woman had made some of the remarks, well, no, if a man had made some of the remarks or said some of the things or done some of the things that the women on this case have done, it would have gotten way more backlash. A need for conservative values to continue living in a civil society, yeah. Society needs structure and values to grow healthy adults, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like how much sextortion gets used in this case. How much like we've come to be like, oh yes, queen, you get your money with your OnlyFans. And that's not to shame people, but it's also not like, it's a very short step between saying good job on using your body to make a living versus good job on using your body to get what you want out of somebody, right? It's not a perfect correlation, but, and, there's all these women that would be like, you're just saying that because you're jealous, and it's like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, is it tempting to make $1 million and to retire and stuff? Yeah. But I mean, like, that's a very far and few between, right? Okay, let's be nice to each other, guys. Let's be nice to each other. Um, But anyway, the point that I was trying to make here was that the female body got weaponized to gather intel, to hurt people in real time, ruin family situations, family dynamics, to ruin reputations and livelihoods and whatnot like that. So, and I guess it was just a wake-up call, because it was like, but I saw when Me Too happened that goodwill was over. It was preyed upon. I saw that a lot of people were abusing it, right? So yeah, it should be. I agree with you, and like that's coming from a person who was cheated on for years by my significant other, who went and got escorts. I agree. I do think sex work should be legal. I think they should have access to. I think everybody should have access to public health care. Yeah, I mean, it just keeps everybody safer, right? Um, so, but knowing that so many of these women are, and it's not even just using their bodies, it's being real bullies, saying some really hateful things, and lying about people, outwardly lying. Like, again, defamation. It would be a civil suit. It would be a civil suit. So many of these cases. But, and I guess that's just going to be the way of the world, that like women are just as bad, if not worse, in different ways, but worse. And it's counterintuitive. It still really bothers me. I can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, they're evil, or they couldn't do it. That's right. Dina would need to get to hang out in the dark alleys too. Oh my god. No, you don't need a pimp anymore. Well, and then OnlyFans and stuff. And yeah, like if you had a really good body and you like could make that kind of money, don't you think a lot of people would? And then never have to work again? I think a lot of people would, right? But when did all respect, not just for other people but for the self, get erased? Because like, I understand trying to survive and make money, but I don't understand using your body as a weapon to hurt other people, you know. The most basic parts, yeah. We are primates. Recommendation. Yeah, like Granny D was talking about, and you made some really good points, Granny D. Like, it is a learning experience. Like, this whole thing is just really disappointing. But, like, I hope it's okay. Can I read that, Granny D, on here? Because, like, you made some really good points. If it's okay, I would like to read your comments. Let me see if I can find them. Only if you're okay with it, though. Let me see. Okay, thank you. Okay, I loved your comment. I'm going to read both of them if that's okay. So Granny D said, and this is in regards to the Angela calling me a cunt post that I made. Was it yesterday? I can't remember now. But Granny D says, it took me so long to understand that what they do is a professional organized attack on creators and their channels. It's just not the way I think. I count on that. I don't think I'm alone. All the crazy going on in the world right now also helped. You, Prof, and Christina not giving up and fighting through kept my attention until it finally sunk in. One thing's for sure, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm grateful because all their tactics are being used all over the country in other cases, and it's not good. Nothing surprises me anymore. What I don't understand is, what are they fighting so hard for? Most have figured out by now the March BG video is bunk. All this can't be happening just to collect personal info from their website. The only thing left is Mr. Allen's legal situation. It's obvious they've sabotaged his case to some degree. It just seems the way they are amping up, it would have been to be something more immediate. Well, whatever this is, I'm sure we will all find out. I think that's very well said. And then I really, really, really love this. The worst mistake, this is also Granny D. The worst mistake the government ever made was the COVID lockdown. It was when that all started, my eyes began to see reality and think that's true for many people. I have to say it was startling. My entire life I trusted first unless I was given a reason not to. But I'll tell you, Adrian, all that changed for me. I don't trust first anymore. I wait and see. For me, it's difficult and uncomfortable, but sadly, since Delphi, COVID, and all government and bizarre shenanigans going on in our world, I don't see it changing. In the Delphi world, I'm just a grandma that happened to be watching the news when two beautiful young girls went missing. And then sadly, they were found with their lives ripped away from them brutally. It broke my heart, so I followed it. I wanted to at least see them receive the only justice left for them to receive. We all know how that went. I don't own a computer. It's just the last few years I've started using a cell phone because I didn't want to keep a house phone anymore. I'm not a true crime follower. I do crafts. I do crafts too, yay. But since I started following Libby and Abby's story, of course, I had to weed through all the creators and channels to find who seemed credible because news coverage is not trustworthy. Amen. It took years to finally land where I have. I listened to more than just the facts so I can get a feel for a creator, of course. When things are one-sided like this and you can't have conversations with someone, it's hard to gauge their sincerity. But I am as sure as I can be I've landed in the right places. Now that I can actually see what's going on here rather than just trusting that it is. It's only reaffirmed my instinct that I was following the people on the right side of this and their intentions were just what they claimed they were. The creators I consistently follow are you. When I catch a live, I always miss them. Prof. And I recently started following Christina from Prof's chat. She's great. And one of her posts was what finally got all of this to sink in my head. And Christina is great. Can we post her? Christina, can you post your? Can you post it? Can people post Christina's YouTube channel? God damn, it's late. It's late for me, guys. Her YouTube channel. Shibby, post your YouTube channel. Trial Junkie, post yours. Anybody that's got a YouTube channel, post them, please. Dee Dee, if you're in here, please do. And everybody go, please subscribe. Yeah, so I recently started following Christina from Prof's chat. She's great. And one of her posts was what finally got all of this to sink in my head. Of course, I also follow others, not just consistently, or just not consistently, like It's a New Day and EOA and a couple of others. They're great too, but they should be followed and subscribed to. After much searching, watching, and listening to everyone, I am now very comfortable with my choices. The way people react is of course always unique to them, especially in times of stress, but there are commonalities also. Reactions that are credible, even angry reactions depending on someone's personality. But it's not hard to see manufactured reactions to stressful situations. And that is what I'm seeing from the others. Reactions seem manufactured, also highly organized. Everyone strikes out at the same time and in the same way. The list goes on. I guess I took the long way of saying I certainly understand why you would want to get as far away from all of this as you can. The things that have been done to you in Prof are disgusting and at times even criminal. And a lot of people have gone missing from YouTube too. Hi Amy. Hello. And please subscribe to Daisy Asks too, guys. If we could post her YouTube channel. Sorry. Oh boy. Like, can you post her page? It's like, what page, guys? um. Okay. I participate. Now I participate, but I'll never solve this. I guess I'm still mostly just trying to understand. And I don't think any of us, I think we all have a good chance of solving it together, Granny D, but I don't know, like, if it's ever going to be what you said, the little bit of justice that they could receive would be doing right by them, right? So, yeah, please check out Dana at Rotting Jewels. Yeah, and Christina has been pretty viciously attacked too. And it's like, and I pray it's not going to get worse. But sincerity cannot be manufactured. It's the one thing no one can create. It has to be real. And you were very kind and supportive and said a lot of kind things to me. And Amy has been very kind to me. I need to make you a mod too, Amy. Yeah, mental health slurs, yeah, that were all crazy. Well, and you guys have seen well, that's not what I'm looking for. You see. I'm just gonna do this because I'm lazy, but Yeah. So I really want to thank Granny D for that. It was very nice of her. And she said some very kind things. Amy, you've all been really good to me. Um, hmm. Okay, that's probably too big. Hmm. Well, but we're stronger. We're stronger, Granny D, because we have people like you. We have good people. So, this was a post that I did 2 days ago now. So today's the 31st, so that was 29th. Okay. So I guess like Angela had called me a cunt a couple days ago, which I didn't know until I was watching Props Live, because I actually haven't really been checking my email very much either. So I'm sure people have sent me stuff, but um, so yeah, she called me a cunt a couple days ago. We don't just serve smear pesting, we also serve cunt. And then I saw um Delphi Docs like excusing it, which is like par for the course or whatever that saying is. So and then basically I was like, am I a cunt for calling out what looks like performative advocacy? And the record does stand. Like Angela basically she publicly made statements against Kathy Allen or questioning Kathy Allen's reliability um, for her own husband. And Christina has an excellent video on that. Oh, hey, Christina. I highly recommend you guys. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. It's okay, Christina. It honestly is okay. Like, um, good night, Lisa. We love you. Um, no, you're good, Christina. It's honestly, you're very intelligent and we need you. And I don't, it doesn't like that stuff can't really hurt me anymore. It used to like fry my nervous system, but as long as they're not sending the police to my house, I'm pretty happy, right? So, yeah. So basically, this is kind of a love letter to Angela. Am I a cunt for calling out what looks like performative advocacy? The record stands. You publicly made statements against Kathy Allen. You made claims about the leaked Discovery BG video that contradict later accounts, many later accounts, because there's so many of them. No one forced those choices. They belong to you. December 12, 2021, you launched your R&M Productions YouTube channel. December, of course, is the 12th month, and the 1 plus 2 of 12 equals 3. Then March 12, 2025, your channel was the first to premiere the BG video to the world. March is, of course, the third month. The 312 motif appears repeatedly in dates and usernames. Maybe coincidence, maybe a deliberate inversion of 213, a pattern often observed in certain online subcommunities that appreciate symbolic reversals. And that's in image 2 and 3. So we have uh, basically, this is when she launches the YouTube channel, the R&M Productions. Of course, this is just like, you know, it's tongue in cheek. It's more of like a joke to people. And this stems from like online groups that engage in like cyber. bad acts. Let's put it that way. So then, of course, like, this is her Discord username and stuff. Like, she obviously has a thing for 312, right? So, so there's definitely a pattern there. In April 2025, you commented that you wished you could post a GIF of someone, quote, banging their head against a wall in perpetuity, end quote. For someone presenting as a mental health advocate, the wording was both tone-deaf and offensive, given the widely reported accounts of Rick Allen's self-injury when he was suffering from psychosis. So yeah, this was, I think, April 21st in It's a New Day's community post. I wish I could drop. No. This was my community post. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it was April 28th, but it was, or 21st. It was sometime around there. It was sometime in late April. I wish I could drop a GIF in here. It would just be a person banging their head against a wall in perpetuity. Peace be with you, mama. Get well. And I was like, well, that's a interesting choice of words. Very poor choice of words. Since it came out before trial that Rick Allen literally turned himself black and blue under psychosis, right? Like, how is that not in poor taste? Okay. You publicly denied knowing Dawn, who had identified RA as her person of interest years before his arrest. You say you don't know her, yet she referenced you by name this year. And that discrepancy mattered to those trying to legally assist Rick Allen. So, Luke, who was trying to play me against Alex and Prof, this is April 30th, and Luke is telling me via email Dawn T's Discord username, which again she shared with her daughter, who is now finally of age, at least. That's good, right? So Madison is Dawn's daughter. She has a YouTube channel called the 1920s Flapper Girl. 1920s Flapper Girl is, I don't know if it still exists, Dawn's Discord username. At the same time, she was in a Discord with Alex and et cetera, et cetera. So then this happens when I make a community post calling out Angela's connections with HCC and Dawn to both sides, both, the uniparty of like the defense and then the prosecutor, all the way to the prosecutor. Then this person comes in and says, Angela and James is HCC, this is your doing, your mess, clean it up. Except that we have a week earlier Angela lying about knowing who Dawn is. I have no idea who you are. I have no idea who Dawn is. My motives have never changed. Clearly, you don't actually know me either. Your behavior is unkind and unhinged. That was in It's a New Day's community post comment section. So Angela knows exactly who Dawn is. Everybody who's been on this case for a long time that was in the Not Discord knows who Dawn is, right? She was the admin of the Facebook group. She's friends with Becky Patty. She's friends with the Webbers. Like, okay. So why are you lying about that? And then why are you, if you're close with the defense team, or at least Matt Hoffman, why are you guys not talking about Dawn? Why are so many of you people pretending to not know who she is? And to know that she literally was using RA's initials as her person of interest 2.5 years before he was arrested. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. So, because this is image 6. And this is the exact receipt. So Dawn is the administrator for the Delphi Dilemma Facebook group right here. Okay. She goes and asks her group members, you know, it's time for a check-in. Who are your people's persons of interest for the, assuming there's just a one person killer, right? So she lists hers first, and this is January, I think it's January 18th, 2020. Hers, she lists as RA, right? Then, in early November, shortly after Rick Allen's arrest, Dawn has to address her group, okay? So after the arrest of Rick Allen, one of the Facebook group members asked Dawn if the initials she posted 2 years earlier were meant to be for Richard Allen. She says yes and gives this explanation. She says, okay, second issue, yes, I did put initials RA in a group 2 years ago when people were calling out POI's initials. Big deal. Richard Allen looks like the bridge guy, and Jordan allowed me to say that yes, we worked him, and I'm sure we were not the only ones. Okay? So, Angela, you've produced polished videos, yet often cited live stream difficulties, right? Meaning that is a suggestion that DB has helped you immensely, and he happens to be, at least from what Prof has uncovered, a tech wizard. So multiple technical and legal adjacent collaborators appear to assist your channel and message, several of whom were very much later linked to targeted harassment campaigns against me and others who questioned your narrative. Broadly speaking, it appears your overlapping ties to embedded networks were never fully disclosed to viewers. So, if calling out documented contradictions makes me a cunt, so be it. May the record speak for itself and may accountability follow. So, yeah, that was what that was in response to. So, I don't know why Angela would need to call me a cunt. I don't know why there's outrage. There's this faux outrage that happens. It's like, only when you call the women that we like cunts are you okay to do it. Or only like when you call out the people that we don't like me. So it's like, it's totally fine when it's me. It's totally fine when it's like Christina, because we also have All Eyes calling her a cunt, which of course I just exited out of. This is the kind of dehumanizing language that is used to justify harming people. Many of us have faced real-world consequences, including doxing, harassment, and attempted swatting. It's unacceptable, and I won't tolerate it. This is from in All Eyes post that I believe she still has up. And this is because she's mad at Christina, because Christina can run circles around her, in all honesty. Adrian, wrong again as usual. I've had exactly 0 part in creating and or running RickAllenJustice.com. But this evil, manipulative bitch, okay, etc., etc., etc. Then, let me see. Need to, there we go. Don't do that, go away. So somebody says something, damn, okay, well, I can't read it, but somebody says something about, I think that Christina is doing something right, right? That's basically the gist of it. Yeah, and then they called him a pussied out. Like, they really hate the female anatomy. Like, these women hate women so much. It's like, every time they call, like, a guy a misogynist, I just want to be like, you guys are the biggest misogynists on this case. And you're a bunch of females. You're just like a bunch of self-hate or something. So, and then this is All Eyes saying about Christina / me, because like she's pretending that also Christina is me. She knows damn well. Like, I don't have a cool accent like Christina, and Christina's way smarter than me. So All Eyes is like, glad that manipulative stalker bitch makes you happy. But I'm finding her pest behaviors extremely creepy and red flaggy. You do you, though. It's a little unhinged, right? It's a lot of unhinged. Prof and Christina are stalker bitches, and I'm sick of their coordinated smear pest campaigns against anyone who won't go along with Prof's narrative. They're so unimaginative. Like, this is so unimaginative, All Eyes, because all you can do is call out your own doings and then project them back onto the people that are messing with your message. It's so unimaginative. It's so lazy. Yeah. So it's really shitty too. I mean, like, so yeah, for clarity, the first image was taken from a paragraphs long All Lies community post bashing and misattributing Oh Hey Christina's excellent research as my own, which was kind of fun, you know. Like, I like being as smart as you, Christina, even if it's just like misattributed. But I know, yeah, she still has her Canadian friends that is no, my Canadian source from Canada told me through the grapevine of moose. The long line of moose whispered in my ear. Yeah. So basically, it was like, she wanted me to apologize. She was like, won't hold my breath for Prof and Adrian to apologize for calling me all lies on Delphi. So I was like, bashing and misattributing Oh Hey Christina's excellent research as my own, I do not apologize. All lies is a befitting name for someone unstable and uninformed enough to make a whole community post hatefully smearing the wrong person, and just also hatefully smearing somebody because they have more logic and reason than you. It's pretty easy to see. And they're not lying. Furthermore, the name fits for someone deliberately omitting context and misrepresenting facts. That, I believe, is the definition of a lie. So now you are all lies to me. End of discussion. So yeah, that's what that was about. Grapevine of Moose. The moose whispers. Take off, eh? Yeah. Get out of here, eh? So, dude, it's funny, man. It's very unhinged though. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the amount of lies that she's made up about me. And this was somebody that I very much supported and I defended. It's not normal. None of this stuff is normal. Why do you have so many people with so many really intense connections? Like really top tier, upper echelon of society connections. Legally, technically. Why are there so many of those people on the case? For 2 kids? Loopy wants to come in. Oh, it's gonna get loud. Good. Yeah, report it. If somebody's misattributing and saying that you're somebody you're not, yeah, report it for sure. You gotta be kind of quiet. Okay, but you gotta be a little quiet, okay? You wanna come say hi? No? All right. Well, whatever you think. It's up to you, man. It's up to you. So, you wanna come say hi? Come on. Come on. They're not gonna hurt you. They're in this computer here. They won't be able to get to you. You come sit on my lap? You like the witch's hat? Come here, Bubba. Loopy, come here. You're okay. Loopy. Loopy boopy. Loopy boopy. Come here. Come here, Loopy boopy choopy. Are you a Loopy boopy choopy? Come here. You can still smell the kitten, can't you? This little cat scared the shit out of him. And I don't know why. Come here. You're 10 times bigger than that little kitten. Oh, yeah. Look at this Loopy. Hi. Hi. The people want to see you. You're famous. Look at this. Look at this. You're a famous kitty. You're famous. You're famous, Shamish. Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh my God. Mom, put me down. How dare you manhandle me this way? How dare you woman handle me this way? Oh, he's not happy. He's not happy. I'm in top messages. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, they love you. They love you. Oh my God, Shivy. Oh, hi, Four Pits. Hello. Hello. Shivy, you're terrible. How many candidates there were for the crimes against the girls all in one place. Dude, that's so true. That's so true. Like it was orchestrated. Meow, meow, meow. Needs kibble. I know. Christina, like, she interprets his mouth. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? You want to say hi? You okay? Loopy. No? Okay. All right. Well, whatever you say. Whatever you think, man. Well, these two purring too. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm sorry, TJ. What's Wanker? Aw. Yeah, no, so I adopted him from adoptapet.com, and there was a gal, she had a 5-month-old newborn baby basically, and they're both Taiwanese. So their English wasn't very good, but like he traveled a lot. So it was just the mom and this baby for like a lot of the time, and Loopy is literally like so loud, and it's still pretty much a nightly occurrence. Um, well, it's a morning occurrence of like 3 to 5 a.m. Somewhere around there, he begins like just meow, 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 really loud, and I'm sure it was messing with the baby's sleep, and he just wasn't getting Loopy wasn't getting the love that he needed. So they put him up for adoption, and I tried to figure out like what his name meant, and the closest that I could get was that he like Loopy or something can mean like deer skinned in I think Mandarin, and that like his coat was like a deer or something, like a special kind of deer. TJ, he's he's basically like he ghosted. Well, he ghosted me. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because then they'll just use it against me and make fun of me, but it started as Swinker, tiny poodle chihuahua. Swinker. He lost all his glory to Winker. That's cute. Yeah. I guess you could say he's laying low. Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Don't be afraid to report stuff, guys. Like, you know, I think that was definitely a good time to do that, TJ. Um, oh man. I spent like all day outside, so I'm like, should I take some more allergy medicine? Has so much emotion in this thing. Well, because they really went after him. Like, I think, again, like I said earlier, I think he was going to be the patsy for if a lot of the IT shenanigans backfired and got found out. I think he was going to be somebody that had it pinned on him and possibly Meerkat. So, and but yeah, Alex is like he really is a genius. Like he's very intelligent. Um, but yeah, there's just there's a wild streak in him too, and so Why do you think Mark Cohen came out when he did? What do you mean? Has he come out again? Does somebody want to give me the update on that? I think he's trying to make good with people, but I don't know if you can make good. I don't think he can ever be trusted. Oh, okay. Well, there's something going on. He and Peggy like dated, I guess, back around this time last year, off and on again. And Peggy's about the crime scene photos. He's probably trying to clear his name because there's a lot of stuff going on with Ruckus. Because, like, apparently this is the word on the street, but, like, I think MRC met up with Ruckus in, like, Orlando, somewhere in Florida, and gave, like, a hard drive of a bunch of discovery to Ruckus. And I'm not sure if it was, like, all of the discovery or if it was, like, a lot of discovery. Because, like, basically what happened when Angela and Sue sued Carroll County for campaign fraud or whatever it was that they went after him, Sue ended up receiving a large packet of information, I think like 2 large manila envelopes back to back on her dashboard outside the Carroll County courthouse. This was sometime in 2022. And I could never really get out of Sue what was in those envelopes. But she said when she opened them up, she saw crime scene photos. And so she was like, oh no, I better get my lawyer involved. And then, she said she didn't give them to Angelo. But, shortly thereafter, these things are getting leaked because of what's going on with Brandon Woodhouse. Because for whatever reason, and this is, I can't prove all of this, so this is just like what I've heard over the years. But the rumors were that Mark Robert Cohen somehow got, the investigative materials, because it's not yet discovery, because they had not arrested Richard Allen. And he maybe got them through Angela, through Sue. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened there. But somebody gets a lot of these investigative materials and starts leaking them to people like Brandon Woodhouse and to other content creators and running it as like kind of like playing people off of each other too to see what information he can get from them. And then basically Richard Allen is arrested, and I'm not sure, like, I think those investigative materials are still getting passed around, and they might be getting passed around in like the Not Discord or other Discords or wherever. But eventually, at some point, MRC allegedly has like all of Discovery or a big portion of Discovery and hands it off to Ruckus. And that's where that theoretical, like, oh, that's where that GoFundMe payment came in. We don't know that. Like, that, I don't know. That's not been proven. But anyway, Ruckus ends up with a lot of Discovery, allegedly, and then has it in his Discord. So there's a lot of people that have access to a lot of Discovery. Not just from the early investigative materials that potentially came in through Sue and wound up like in MRC's hands, allegedly, but then there's all this discovery material too that gets handed over to Ruckus and his Discord. So that is the rumor. That's like what people have posited, at least from what I've heard behind the scenes. But again, like, unless there's a way to prove all of that. And of course, like, the theory is that the people that are pro-defense are actually just controlled ops put here by more than likely the state, more than likely ISP, or something akin to that. But, as long as they have people hyper-focused on a one-man, lone wolf perpetrator and stuff, sent by Baldwin to Woodhouse, yeah. So that's a theory, but again, like, it's all these people know each other too, so it's like really confusing. Like when people have their fallouts and whatnot, because like at some point everybody was close with Greeno. Nobody really talks about that anymore. And like, yeah, everybody was close, and then once somebody got arrested, everybody was like perfectly poised to get in position. The alliteration. To be, to draw that line, to draw the camps of either, pro-defense or pro-prosecution. And, then it was up for, infiltrating the defense, virtue signaling that, like, we are really militantly pursuing Rick Allen's innocence, or like pursuing the message that he's promoting, the message that he's innocent. But as long as we keep it lone wolf and we hyperfixate on all these shenanigans that have people looking at the state, yes, but not really looking at the state. Nobody is for or against Greeno, because nobody wants Greeno after them. So, yeah, and Christina's been really perceptive on this, like creating divisiveness, us versus them. Yeah, like, please go over, subscribe to Christina, like and watch her videos. But as long as they have, and the real point too is not necessarily to change people's minds on the defense side, because like the state basically has to set the tempo for everything. Like they have to set up the infrastructure of what to believe, or like, where to follow the lead or whatever. But the point of controlled ops, like Christina would tell you, is, or more than likely would tell you, is that they're there to monitor and to see where people's minds are going, and then to basically do the harassment campaigns to make sure that if you start getting too close, you get harassed pretty bad. That's kind of what that installment on the opposite side was for. It's just giant harassment, yeah. So, But yeah, all these people know each other and they've known each other for a long time. Greeno is scary. I mean, we don't know for sure. This is all speculation, TJ. Like, this can't be proven, right? But they only work in the confines of what the state gives them. They're not allowed to go outside the confines of what the state gives them. Can be proven once they've held the money. I think all these other people claiming insider knowledge were just to distract from the real leakers. Yeah, are on YouTube, but in careers their viewers don't even know about. That's probably very true, Christina. And you would know better than I. And I honestly do tell people, like, I was this way with Alex too. It was like, the less you tell me, the happier I will be. And he has, like, sometimes it does help to know things, but, like, generally, I don't want to know because I feel like I already know. Like, I feel like I already feel it and it's just going to confirm things. So, like, I need to, like, not be biased and not know things as much as possible. But yeah. Yep. And like I've been looking into with the online radicalization series, like, in the same way that they use like memes to put out death threats or whatever, they'll take something that's like pretty serious, like the day the girls were murdered, uh, allegedly, and then they'll invert it. So it's the inversion of something that is serious and it's a mockery of it then because, like, for instance, with all this pedophilia shit, you see like Cupcake Ann, a lot of Anns, Annie Ann, Bethany Ann, Emily Ann, um, Cupcake Ann, all these Anns. Raggedy Ann is this little doll, and it was used as kind of like a means of, like, the CIA literally did do trauma experiments against kids, and then they would like have them associate with a doll, this limp, broken doll, the Raggedy Ann. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I could go into about it, but it's like they're taking something that is sweet and innocent and they're inverting it and they're using it as a weapon against kids. Now, that's just that particular symbol and example, right? It's it's pretty heinous, actually. But or like they'll take the sweet imagery, cupcakes and lollipops and candies and et cetera, et cetera, and they'll apply that as like, this is the trade. This is what you're ordering. But they're people, right? But they're just sweet little delectables. It's an inversion of everything. Something that means that's supposed to be innocent becomes this vile symbol that's a commodity. Mm-hmm. There you go. And Skip Jensen pointed this out to me, but Delphi Docs was established or published or created in Reddit as a subreddit on October 13th, 2021. They love the fucking 13th. Rick Allen was interviewed that day, I believe by Mullins and Liggett in 2022, a year later. Basically a month after Delphi Docs, no, 2 months after Delphi Docs is established, then Angela launches her channel. And HCC launches his channel at the end of the month on the 31st. Because the 31st is an inversion of 13. Because it's all a fucking sick joke, guys. It's all this sick, stupid joke. And like, yeah, they can be like, oh, they're crazy. They're seeing patterns where there aren't any. And it's like, the second interview was the 26th. Yep. And guess what, Christina? When they put out the press release on Anthony Shots, 13 days later, there is the IMDb post of Richard and Alan. Like, and the fact that Kathy Shank has printed off the cleared lead, one of one per job, cleared lead of Richard Allen on Whiteman Drive in 2019, October 2019, says to me that Rick Allen was a premeditated patsy. Because we see it in 2020, a couple months after Kathy Shank prints off that one of one lead that was cleared of Rick Allen talking to Doolin. In January 2020, Dawn in the Facebook group, the Delphi Dilemma, is saying RA is her initials of person of interest. A month later in February, Richard is mentioned twice on 4chan as being the perpetrator. And then Richard is also mentioned twice a month later on the Wikipedia edited revisions of the suspect. Now, noticeably, what happens in March is that the whole country shuts down in 2020, right? The whole country goes into COVID mode and things get pushed back. So, but later, 6 months later, well, no, 5 months later, it comes out, well, actually, Keegan Kline gets arrested for the Anthony Shot stuff in the CSAM, right? But it takes him 3.5 years to do that arrest. And presumably it's taking so long because they're also trying to find the other IP addresses of the people that are on or linked to that account, right? It's scary. And the phones falling 13 days apart. Oh, yeah. But that IMDb post is 13 days after. Yeah. They put out that very quiet release about Anthony Shots. And it's weird that they put that out like 15 months after they arrest Keegan Kline. It's almost like they're like, oh, let's make sure we cover our tracks. So, that's scary, Christina. So, and there are some notable things too, like we noticed that there's like, well, here, I'll bring it up. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Was it Kentucky? Oh no, that's not the one I want. Oh, never mind. No, 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 no. Let me find it. Hold on. So something very similar. Let me share screen. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Something very similar happens. Share screen. Share screen. Share screen. Wow. So hopefully this shows up. But okay, good. So let me oh shit, hold on. Let me see. Close this for a quick second. And current comment. Okay. So this happened in northern Kentucky, right? But this is probably, I think there are maybe similarities to what happened with Fouts. Okay, because Fouts is forced to resign, I believe in June or July of 2020. So there's this judge called Tim Nolan, and on May 3rd, 2018. Okay, so 2 years earlier, but he's a former judge and he was involved in human trafficking. So there was a network of judicial and police protection, and that's the Fraternal Order of the Police, the FOP. And Court of Public Opinion has talked about that before. So this judge, Nolan, used addiction exploitation. So he targeted vulnerable women, especially those struggling with addiction, knowing their credibility would be dismissed. And his crimes spanned decades, suggesting long-term institutional protection and a broader pattern of predation within positions of power. So despite the case's severity, local and regional media downplayed its systemic implications, failing to investigate possible co-conspirators in the legal and law enforcement community. Yeah. So then this guy, about 4 years later, Robert Poole, he was the attorney tied to Judge Tim Nolan. Okay. And he had allegations of a broader legal network involvement in trafficking crimes. Implicates the legal community, suggesting the trafficking network extended into prosecutorial and defense circles. The sentencing exposed connections between human trafficking and judicial privilege. Implies a compromised justice system in northern Kentucky. And again, authorities failed to fully investigate Poole's associations, leaving questions of other involvement or protected legal professionals. So okay, 4 pits. I think what we're looking at is something very similar to this. And of course, like the CASA, the court appointed something advocate, I forget, but CASA started by Curtis Fouts and Abigail Diener, in late 2012, early 2013, which is interesting. And Kathy Shank, I don't think retires until maybe 2016 or 2017, after like 40 years. And Four Pits has talked about this before. Went down first. Yep, it did. Who's from Kentucky? Well, Kentucky has always kind of had these connections. So I'm just saying that, like for instance, Brad Blankenship has talked about don't say what. He's talked about that his grandfather protected, like his Brad Blankenship's grandfather protected Brad Blankenship's dad and uncle, because Brad Blankenship's grandfather was, I think, the treasurer. Might be in here. Hold on. Yeah, so basically in 2024, William Blankenship, this is Brad Blankenship's uncle, he was convicted of sex crimes, and he was allegedly shielded for years due to family connections to the Fraternal Order of Police and Commonwealth Attorney's Office, because they have commonwealths there. Okay. So the media coverage deliberately hid family identity, omitting ties to law enforcement and the Fraternal Order of Police, despite their relevance to the case. Because I believe, I can't remember what his, Brad Blankenship's uncle, William Blankenship's father was like some head honcho in this Fraternal Order of Police in the area. Okay. So prosecution was allegedly delayed, suppressed due to conflicts of interest involving the Commonwealth's attorney, Michelle Snodgrass. And she's seen back here covering up shit too. So, or no, that was different. That's the Tally Smith, but it was somewhere in here. No, that's Tally Smith. She was caught doing something. Anyway, so reflects a broader pattern of selective justice where connected offenders are shielded until public pressure or external intervention forces action. So basically, like, remember when I was telling you guys how when Alex told me about his interaction with Delphi police, that was like one of the lowest days that I had had, and I was like really afraid too. Like realizing that the police were like actively working against people who were trying to do right by the case, and also like seemingly advocating for bad actors. Yeah, basically it's selective justice, but it's rigged too. And that's why, like, if the FBI and local police and other agencies aren't going to do a goddamn thing, at least we can make the information public for people to see so that there's a record of it. Because unless we make our own militia or army, you know, like what? It's rigged in so many places, guys. Politicians, police. And I think it goes up to, I think Abbott's FBI had a lot of bad actors that, I mean, I think they were forced to be bad actors because I think the more you look the other way when bad shit goes down, the more culpable you are. So, but what do I know? Brittany Snodgrass? I don't think it was Michelle Snodgrass, attorney Michelle Snodgrass. So this was just like a list of all this stuff that Brad had really looked into. Now he still thinks his dad is involved with the murders of Abby and Libby, but his dad and his uncle, I should say. And he firmly believes that his father killed the Stevensons. I don't know. He's very smart, but he's not necessarily a team player. Mm. Who's evil to the core, Franny? Oh, yeah. Should be sorry. I wasn't paying attention. You can do whatever you want. Basically, I've been given a blanket. Hold on, guys. Let me get back. Basically, more white guys. What? Yeah, Shibby, you can share whatever you want, man. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention. I really would like some warm ramen noodles. Oh, you can do it now. That's fine. Yeah, I'm getting hungry. FBI is appearing to be the same or worse. Yeah, I agree, Granny. Yep. Because, like, if you guys go and seriously watch Prof and Silky's body count live, like, how many more people died and are, like, potential collateral damage because the FBI is just not doing a good job. Seal your views. Chili milkshake. Okay. CDL license. So rotten is there's nowhere. I know. There's no. That's what Brad was always talking about too, Granny. Like that there needs to be a citizens oversight committee of sorts, or like oversight group, or like watchdog thing. And I do agree with him on that. Like ultimately, I agree with Brad on a lot of things. The connected to Chicago, oh, probably, because there's the big cities, all the big cities, and then if you look at Delphi too, well, if you look at Indiana, it really is like the crossroads of America, or whatever the saying is. Let me see if I can find the. I asked ChatGPT some good stuff one time. Well, a couple times. And actually, ChatGPT just told me some good stuff. So let me see if I can think. Oh, yeah. Okay, but what was the name of this one? Share. Correctional officers in CSAM. When was that? September 8th? Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Let's try this one. I need to search. Okay. Oh, let me find search sets. That was correctional officers. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm almost to where I think I need to be. Okay. Hold on. I think I found it. Okay. Can you guys see that? No, probably not. Here, let me. Okay. So, basically, let me see. Are there any reasons you can think of that Indiana would be a central location for trafficking, ideological brotherhoods, extremist groups, organized crime? I know Northern Kentucky had quite a bit of organized crime. I think Newport was considered the Sin City of the Midwest, or whatever, back in the 1920s, but is there a reason geographically, economically, socially, politically that there's this confluence of bad people getting together in that area? You're not the first to notice that Indiana and the Ohio River Valley more broadly has acted as a crossroads for organized crime, extremist brotherhoods, and trafficking networks. The reasons are layered. Geography, economy, social fabric, and politics all play a part. Here's the breakdown. So, geography, the crossroads of America, transportation hub. Indiana is nicknamed the Crossroads of America because it has major interstates: I-65, I-70, I-74, and I-69. And all of these converge in Indianapolis, Chicago, Louisville, St. Louis, and Cincinnati, and they're all within a few hours' drive. So the logistical advantage, that web of highways plus rails, let me see, that plus rail lines and river access, the Ohio River and Great Lakes, makes Indiana a prime corridor for drug trafficking, weapons smuggling, and human trafficking. In the border effect, proximity to Kentucky and Ohio with historic organized crime hubs like Newport and Cincinnati let networks expand fluidly across state lines. So, plus, once you go over into state lines or county lines, you're crossing jurisdictions. It makes it harder to, you know, get together and coordinate against certain, activities and groups. But historical context, they're vice corridors. So northern Kentucky, Newport and Covington were wide open gambling, prostitution, and mob towns in the early mid 20th century. And that influence spilled north into Indiana, obviously. But there's the Chicago outfit and Detroit's Purple Gang. So Indiana was an in-between zone where syndicates ran liquor during Prohibition and later gambling machines and narcotics. So there was also the Klan's power in the 1920s. And Indiana wasn't just a satellite, it was a capital of the Ku Klux Klan with political and social power unmatched outside of the South. And that normalized the idea of large fraternal extremist brotherhoods. 3 decades now. Okay, so let me make this bigger. Economic and social factors. So industrial decline, Rust Belt deindustrialization left parts of Indiana with unemployment, poverty, and dislocation. Fertile ground for gangs and extremist recruitment, right? There's a rural-urban mix. So pockets of isolation in rural counties combined with decaying industrial cities like Gary, Terre Haute, and Muncie created environments where both meth economies and extremist groups thrived. Cultural conservatism. Indiana's reputation for social conservatism can paradoxically provide cover. So outsiders assume nothing bad happens there, which makes it easier for exploitation to hide in plain sight. Law enforcement and political environment. So fragmented policing. Indiana has hundreds of small local police departments plus state police, making it hard to coordinate against sophisticated networks. Historical corruption. From Prohibition-era sheriffs to political leaders tied to the Klan, Indiana has a documented tradition of officials being compromised or looking the other way. Federal presence. Indianapolis hosts key federal field offices, the FBI, ATF, and DEA. That draws investigations but also targets. Cases like Greg Ferenczi's murder underscore how dangerous these overlapping domains are. Modern trafficking and extremism overlap. Interstate meth and fentanyl corridors. Sorry, guys. Mexican cartels and outlaw motorcycle clubs like the Outlaws, the Hells Angels, the Sons of Silence use Indiana's transport grid. There's extremist digital culture. Indiana has produced figures like Matthew Heimbach, the Traditionalist Worker Party, and has seen crossover between extremist ideology and online exploitation, like the Delphi's digital angles, but also like Buster Hernandez, even though he was coming from California, he was still very much involved in cyber crimes in Indiana.
So Midwest anonymity. Operating in Indiana avoids the spotlight of a Chicago or New York, but keeps groups close enough to major population centers to matter. Bottom line, Indiana's centrality isn't mystical, it's geographic. There's these transport crossroads. It's also historical with the Klan and Prohibition vice. It's economic, Rust Belt decline. And I was, urban and rural. It's political, it's fragmented with the policing and corruption. So all of these things come together to create a permissive environment where both organized crime and extremist brotherhoods can incubate. So then I asked, is there any reason that Indiana's local or many local police departments would be different from, like, say, the many local police departments of other states? Is there some sort of pattern or well-known thing about Indiana's jurisdictional issues in comparison to other states? So Indiana has exceptionally fragmented policing, right? Um, it has over 450 separate law enforcement agencies for a population of around 7 million. So this includes municipal police, county sheriffs, town marshals, university police, and specialized task force. Many are very small departments, sometimes just a handful of officers in a rural town, so they lack investigative capacity and rely heavily on county or state police for serious crimes. This level of fragmentation is higher than in some states of similar size like Kentucky, which has around 400 agencies with fewer people, but Indiana's distribution is more uneven. So, in Indiana, sheriffs are elected and they're constitutionally empowered officers with significant independence. So each of Indiana's 92 counties has its own sheriff with political clout, often leading to variability in enforcement standards and willingness to cooperate with the federal or state partners. And this can create turf battles or inconsistent application of policies like drug enforcement, the handling of CSAM, cooperation with ICAC, task forces, etc., etc. They're kind of like their own mob bosses, the sheriffs. Kind of, you know. Historical precedent of corruption and jurisdictional gaps. So, Indiana has a long history of local level corruption. During Prohibition in the 1920s Klan era, where sheriffs and police chiefs were openly members, and even into the late 20th century with mob infiltration in northern counties. Local politics sometimes determine law enforcement loyalty more than professionalized policing does. This legacy sets Indiana apart from some other Midwestern states where corruption was more urban-centered, like Chicago, rather than diffused across many small jurisdictions. The urban-rural split and resource disparity. So the Indianapolis Metro PD, or the IMPD, and a few larger cities like Fort Wayne, Evansville, and Gary have professionalized forces, but most counties are rural, with fewer resources and training. This disparity creates coordination problems. Rural departments might lack the digital forensic expertise needed for CSAM or organized crime cases, meaning evidence has to pass through multiple agencies. The FBI and ISP often step in, but that can create delays and jurisdictional confusion, something very visible in cases like Delphi, where Carroll County Sheriff, Delphi PD, ISP, and FBI were all involved with different levels of control. Unique political cultural factors. Indiana's home rule culture means local officials guard their authority. Outside intervention is sometimes seen as political overreach. Combined with conservative political leanings, there can be resistance to outside scrutiny, federal or even state level. This makes Indiana more prone to siloing of investigations compared to states with more centralized policing traditions like North Carolina, where the State Bureau of Investigation plays a stronger unifying role. Excuse me. So, Indiana's policing is unusually fragmented. It's sheriff dominated and historically tied to local politics. That mix creates more turf battles, siloed investigations, and inconsistent cooperation than you typically see in other Midwestern states. When you add the crossroads geography and history of extremist and organized crime groups, it means Indiana's patchwork system is often tested in high stakes cases and doesn't always respond smoothly. It would be fascinating to know how Indiana ranks against all the other states. I'll give you a comparison chart: Indiana versus Kentucky, Illinois, and Ohio. So, excuse me. Whew. Category: number of law enforcement agencies, the sheriff system, state police role, historical corruption, coordination task forces, cultural political factors. These are all the criteria for the political structure comparison of like the Indiana police. So the Indiana stack up against and policing structure. Okay, so policing structure. So this is very interesting to me. And where is the bar that doesn't let me move the way I want? Okay. Why is there no? Okay. We'll just make it smaller then. All right. Well, so the policing structure comparison. So the number of law enforcement agencies. Indiana has 450 for 7 million people. Kentucky has a lot too, 400 for 4.5 million. Illinois has a population of 12.5 million, but it's got over 850 law enforcement agencies. Ohio has over 900 for 12 million people. So the sheriff system in Indiana, it's a strong, independent, elective sheriffs in 92 counties, high autonomy, political power. In Kentucky, it's similar, but it's historically weaker role compared to Kentucky State Police. In Illinois, sheriffs exist, but urban police departments, especially Chicago PD, Cook County Sheriff, dominate. More balance between levels. Sheriff's important, but strong statewide networks, smooth cooperation in Ohio. In Indiana State Police, the ISP is mid-sized. It fills gaps, but it's not as centralizing as in some states. The Kentucky State Police, one of the most centralized authoritative in the U.S. rural states. So they do a good job. Their state police does a good job. Illinois State Police has a large footprint, especially in traffic, drug enforcement, but city PDs often resist coordination. It's interesting. Ohio has its own Bureau of Criminal Investigating under the AG, and it has a strong standardized role, reducing silos, which is very helpful. Historical corruption. It's widespread, especially going back since the 20s. I guess Kentucky did have a strong mob history, and Illinois had Chicago, so of course it was very corrupt there. And then Ohio, excuse me, had a strong mob presence too. So, coordination in task forces. It's very patchy in Indiana. The ISP and FBI step in, but locals guard the turf. Delphi case is textbook example of multi-agency dysfunction. In Kentucky, the KSP, or the Kentucky State Police, often dominate multi-county investigations and less turf conflict. In Illinois, task forces exist, but tension between Chicago PD, Cook County, and federal partners is notorious. It's funny because it's like they don't think anything exists outside Chicago, which I find offensive because I come from a town that existed outside of Chicago. Good to see you, El Vicicio y El Bano. Basically, where Indiana stands out nationally. So Indiana is very fragmented. It's not the most fragmented like California, Texas, and Ohio, who all have more agencies, but for its population size, Indiana is unusually high. There's a lot of small departments, which makes it very vulnerable to, um, people not being on the same page. Sheriff power. Indiana is one of the states where sheriffs retain very strong independence and local loyalty, similar to parts of the South, like Alabama and Arkansas. They have notorious coordination problems. So, states like North Carolina, Kentucky, and Virginia have more centralized state police structures. Indiana falls into the less centralized side of the spectrum, more like Missouri or Oklahoma. And corruption history. Indiana is unique because the Klan actually ran the state politically in the 1920s, and that's a deeper embedding of extremist influence into law enforcement than you see in most states. So, Indiana isn't the worst in absolute numbers, but its combination of high fragmentation, politically powerful sheriffs, weak state-level centralization, and historical corruption or extremist infiltration makes it more prone to jurisdictional silos and cover-ups than neighbors like Kentucky, Illinois, or Ohio. That's why big cases like Delphi, even the Fogel investigations, often look so messy when multiple agencies get involved. So, yeah, that was a really interesting chat with ChatGPT, and it makes sense. We went over like the crossroads of America, and then we also went over jurisdictional policing structures. So, but yeah, let's stop sharing screen. My voice is gonna go, guys. Sorry. It's not gonna make it. But thanks for hanging out with me on Halloween. This is like my favorite time of year, so this was very exciting. I think I'm gonna make some tea. But yeah, I love you guys. And please go to Shibby's thing. Wherever Shibby's thing is. Please subscribe to Oh Hey Christina, to is it Love and Light for All? Shibby's, please subscribe to Shibby and Dee. Shibby has his own channel. Dee has her own channel. Please subscribe to that. Please subscribe to Four Pits. Who all was in here, guys? I love you guys. I'm trying to remember who all was in here. Oh hey Christina, please subscribe to Oh hey Christina. Oh hi Big JD, sorry I didn't see you there. Hi Owl. Hi. Hi Carol. I think I said hi. Oh, I'm sorry guys. Sorry. Okay, let me see. Is it Love and Light, is that your channel name or is it Trial Junkie? Um I stopped working after a while, guys. Shit. All right. Well, if I miss you, I'm sorry. Um, but I just really want to thank you guys for being here. It was awesome to see all you guys. I hope you had a good Halloween. Um, it's at Trial Junkie. Okay. But please subscribe to Trial Junkie. And yeah, everybody stay safe out there. And I'm gonna go make some noodles. To not take a kiddo trick-or-treating, kind of a bummer. Yeah, that sucks. This was the first year in a long time I didn't hand out candy because I would make them like little baggies of goodies. I'd try to like put in like, you know, kind of like the fruity snacks with the chocolatey snacks, and I put some stickers in there and some glow in the dark little rings, and I think I had like little pumpkin erasers one year. I just make like little bags of goodies, but like one year we had like 153 kids. So I got used to like making all of them, like making 150 some bags, and then it was like each year it seemed like fewer and fewer kids came, and I was like, I can't have all this candy left over. This is going to be ridiculous. So and I just ran out of time. Like I had to get those books done. So yeah. You just get full size bars like a boss. Fuck yeah. You're fucking cool. Me and my brother would be like, that's that house where they gave us the full Hershey bar. You know? That's that house. So yeah, that's pretty boss. I always wanted to do that, but my ex-husband was like, no, you can't do that. But excuse me, I just made up little bags and stuff, so yeah, I like the peace and quiet. I think I only had 3 doorbell rings, which is amazing. Because I was for sure like freaked out. I don't have any decorations up though. But alright. I'll talk to you guys later. Everybody have a good night. I'll see you soon.